This is CM Russell, and welcome to Secrets of the Job Hunt. I'm here at the Recruiting 2006 Conference and Expo run by Kennedy Information, and I'm here today kind of interviewing recruiters and HR people and getting their advice for job seekers. So my first guest is Tiffany. Tiffany, what's your last name?
Bridge,
Tiffany Bridge. She writes the Magic Pot of Jobs blog, which is located at?
magicpotofjobs.com.
Okay. So Tiffany, a couple questions for you from the job seeker's perspective. What would you say are the 2 or 3 biggest mistakes that job seekers make in today's job market?
Probably the biggest mistake, the most consistent mistake that I see everybody making is a complete misunderstanding of what your resume is actually supposed to be. Okay? Your resume does not get you the job.
Your resume is designed for what?
Resume is designed to summarize your qualifications quickly such that an employer would be interested in talking to you. And you can't just have one resume that you use for everything, because one size does not fit all. You have to be able to tweak it for every job that you apply to. And the whole idea is to present yourself as an ideal potential candidate for the position, such that they want to talk to you more about it. So, I see a lot of very genericized, very generic objectives, a lot of very generic descriptions of experience, a lot of vagueness. Vagueness does not make people want to ask you questions. It makes them want to trash your resume.
Right.
So fundamentally, I think that's the biggest mistake they make. And I think secondarily, they make the mistake of only using the internet for their job search. I mean, job boards are fine for what they are, but you've really got to get out there and find what the unadvertised openings are. Which I guess leads me to the next mistake that I think everybody makes is a lot of people don't network until they need something. You have to network while you have a job and you're happy in it, so that when the time comes when you're ready to make a move, or God forbid you lose your job, the network is already there, and you're not like the desperate jerk at the networking event who's like shaking hands and checking over the door to see if anyone more interesting is coming in. You want to have those relationships in place already.
How much do you advise them on networking online these days, in terms of the new sites out there?
How so?
Well, do you tell them to go on and use LinkedIn or?
I do tell people to use whatever tools they're going to be comfortable with. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and I definitely recommend that everyone does, if only for keeping track of who do you know and who do they know.
Right.
It's really handy for that. I definitely recommend that people consider their online brand. Google yourself. Find out what Google says about you. If you don't like what Google says about you, it's time to start putting something else out there. Even if you do like what Google says about you, maybe it's time to consider putting up a site, buying your own name as a domain, and putting up a site that links to all of the various things about it. People should really be thinking very carefully about not giving other people control over their Google reputation.
Right.
You've got to, people are going to Google you, and they're going to find you, and they're going to find information out about you. So do you want to be the one who put it there, or do you want to let somebody else put it there? So I think that's really important that a lot of people don't think about.
Good. Very good advice. As a recruiter, you've seen a lot of resumes in your day. Mm-hmm. What's the most creative resume you've ever seen?
Well, that's a hard question because I work with designers, and so those resumes are inherently creative.
Sure.
I have seen some that were very creatively bad, like the guy who he purposely wrote his resume to be as vague as possible, thinking that was going to entice the hiring manager to ask him questions.
Right.
When really it just made me think, who is this guy? What does he do? I'm not interested. I haven't actually seen that many really creative, good resumes.
How about bad resumes?
I've seen some horrible resumes. But even those, they don't tend to be bad in any unique fashion.
Right,
usually it's people who, probably my favorite example is, you have to really watch your wording on your resume. Because I had a guy come to me, he was just out of school, he was a computer science major, he was a developer, and he described a project that he worked on as developing a JavaScript method for alcohol consumption, measurement, and intake. And what it was a widget that was designed to show you how impaired you'd get after every drink you had. But it sounded like he had figured out a way to use JavaScript to imbibe alcohol. And that's a good trick. I'd like to learn how to do that. I wasn't aware that you could use JavaScript for that particular application. So I think that's probably the funniest one. I found, but most of the really hilarious ones come from people trying to turn like nothing into something. The candidate possesses deep understanding of information technology from a substantial perspective.
Right. So it's obviously had no clue what they're
Exactly. Yeah. What are you talking about? That happens a lot.
Okay. As far as interviews go, what do you think is the best way to make a good first impression?
It is absolutely critical to know how to introduce yourself. People are very bad with eye contact. Women in particular like to tilt their heads when they introduce themselves, like they tilt it over to the right or to the left.
Really?
Yeah, to introduce themselves. And women, like, we do it to be cute, and it's not cute. It looks bad.
How about the handshake?
The handshake is really important. When I get a bad handshake, I literally feel like I have to go wash my hands.
Yes. I agree.
That can be, your hands are clammy, you grip poorly. I actually, whenever I'm presenting to a student group or anything about interviewing, the first thing I teach is how to shake hands properly.
Yeah, so many young people do not know how to shake hands. I mean, it's something that I was taught as a fundamental thing growing up. Have a firm handshake whenever you meet
Exactly. A firm handshake, but that grips the hands, not the fingers.
Right.
I wear rings, that hurts. So that's a really important thing, like learning how to shake hands properly. And smile. I think a lot of people are just afraid to look like they're happy to be there.
Yep.
And people get very uptight and nervous because they're under pressure, and I think they forget to make the interview a conversation. Like, they need the hiring company needs to impress you just as much as you need to impress them. I think people really lose sight of that. They feel like it's an inquisition, and that's not what it's supposed to be. And if that's what your interview is, then either you're doing it wrong or they're doing it wrong. So. But I think that goes a long way to making a good impression. Like, you've got to be able to look people in the eye and smile and have a conversation.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the time today. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks.
And once again, it's magicpotofjobs.com.
Yep.
Okay, that's where you can find Tiffany. Thank you.